You know that feeling, right? When you're about to start a new job or go on a new date and your brain goes into overdrive with all of the what ifs. Well, it turns out there's a scientific reason for that. Our fear of the unknown is deeply rooted in our biology. In fact, some scientists believe that it might be one of humanity's most fundamental fear. Why? Well, from an evolutionary perspective, treating unknown as potential threats would have helped our ancestors to survive. But here's the kicker. This fear can actually scramble our brains. It makes us seek the familiar and the known, even when it's not so helpful or it's not in our best interest. It's like our brain is saying, hey, stick with what you know. It's safe here. So a study from University of Maryland is diving deeper into this issue. They're actually looking how uncertainty affects our brain activity and arousal levels. It turns out that not knowing if something bad will happen can be almost as disturbing as the thing itself. So the fear of the unknown actually can fuel even chronic anxiety disorder. It's like our brain gets stuck in a loop of what ifs, making every uncertain situation feel more threatening than actually it is. Because our imagination is so powerful. So when we start, but what if this happens? And then you are constantly stuck in this loop. It's like a habit. It's on and on and on. And you can feel it in your body as anxiety. And that's why a lot of people, when they feel so overwhelmed by all these what ifs and the fear of the unknown, they go into analysis paralysis. And that is when the indecision comes because you're stuck in, but what if this happens? If I choose this thing? What if this happens if I choose that thing? And it's like on and on and on. But none of us can know. And not only that, but that is what self-confidence is, knowing that you're going to be okay no matter what, no matter which decision you made. So we don't know what's going to happen. It is normal to feel this way, but we don't have to let fear hold us back. It's okay to feel fear of the unknown and have questions and doubts and uncertainty, but we still have to be able to go and make a decision and go for the things that we want. We don't have to let that fear hold us back. And in fact, one of the first steps to overcome this fear is understanding it. And I don't know who said, but I think it's very true. The best antidote to fear is competence. And of course, the next antidote is just going for the things you're afraid of. So here's some practical tips to face the fear of the unknown. So in my life, I've done a lot of brave things. I can say that I'm very fearless in a lot of things that other people probably would freak out and not go for it. I do have the what ifs. I don't get on board with them. I don't get stuck with them. And sometimes I don't really think about it until I jump. So I'm Sagittarius. Maybe that's typical for Sagittarius. I was always like that all my life. I was very fearless, not about adrenaline. I'm not adrenaline junkie. I do not like high speed or jumping from places or climbing things. That is not me. But when it comes to going for the things I want, I was always a person that would dream big and like, I want this thing. I know I can do it. And it was always like challenging myself. I don't think I'm compulsive in that regard, but I'm very fearless and I make decisions very easy. I'm a very decisive person. With age, in becoming a mom, I changed a little bit. Again, a very decisive person, but I do think about the consequences. And before I decide, I think, okay, if I do this thing, if this is the outcome, how am I going to deal with that? If I do this thing, if that's the outcome, what am I going to do then? So I have to know what I'll be able to do in these two different scenarios. And I think that's a good thing. I like the way I make decisions right now. I'll share a few things that I think it might help you to overcome that fear of the unknown. I don't think you can overcome it actually. That fear will just be there. But how you can work with it and how you can befriend it and still go for the things that you want. Because if you don't, you are not going to fill up your potential as a human. Because if you want to grow as a human and feel your potential and you live your best life, you have to risk. You have to go for the unknown. You have to put the work for that business or go for the girl or the guy or whatever it's you want or the job. But you have to befriend that fear. So the first and most important thing is get to know your fear. Because sometimes we say, oh, I'm scared, but we don't even know what we're scared of. So the first thing is to call out the fear. What exactly are you afraid of? And you know what? It's a great way to journal with that. So what exactly are you afraid of? Is it rational, irrational? Grab a notebook and write it down. It might feel a bit scary, but trust me, naming your fear, it's like turning on the lights when you're scared of the dark. And suddenly it's not that terrifying anymore, because sometimes you can discover that, oh, I'm afraid that they're just going to say no and I'll be hurt and my ego will be hurt. Then it's like, well, can I survive that? Yeah, I think so. I think I can survive being hurt, my feelings being hurt. And actually, you might discover that it's something that's not really a big deal. So now you know your fear. Now what? Well, you don't have to conquer it all at once. Break it down into tiny steps. Tiny steps that you can take today, one step at a time. Maybe it's a researching a hobby you've been curious about, or just telling a friend about your idea. Or if you wanted to have a difficult conversation with someone, but you were scared to do that, maybe write it down. Maybe make bullet points. Maybe tell them in a text message, I want to talk to you. But take one step. And remember, every big journey starts with a single step. Number 3, it's stay in the now. That is very important, especially with the fear and the unknown, where there are so many what ifs. When we're afraid of the unknown, the mind loves to travel to the future and imagine all sorts of scenarios that might never come to fruition. So your superpower, it's in the present moment. Am I safe right now? Yes. Take a deep breath and notice 5 things that you see right now. Then 5 things that you can smell right now. 5 things that you can hear right now. 5 things that you can touch. And you will see how your focus will shift to the now. This simple exercise will shift your brain to the present moment. And it will calm your brain and your thoughts racing and going into this what if scenario. The next thing would be phone a friend. You don't have to face your fears alone. Reach out to a friend or a family member or even a professional. I mean, I talk to my therapist all the time about things that I have what ifs about and I'm scared. And seeing his perspective, it's very different. I mean, hearing a friend too, but be careful with who you share, because if I have a friend who has a lot of fears or they never went for the things that they want, I would probably not ask them for advice or not share, because they'll tell me probably to stay where I am and justify all these fears that I have. So be careful with who you share. But sometimes just talking about your fears can make them seem less scary. And also that encouragement, it's very important, because when we start something new, something that we want to go for it, that we were afraid of, there will be setbacks. So it's good to, to have that support system and people to encourage you. Next thing is flip the script. Next time that you feel the fear bubbling up, instead of saying, I'm scared to do this thing, I'm afraid to do this thing, just say, I'm excited. I'm excited to apply for this job. I'm excited to message that girl or guy, as opposed to I'm scared. It might feel a little bit silly at first, but our bodies actually respond to excitement and fear in the same way. So by reframing it as an excitement, You tell your brain, hey, this is an opportunity, not a threat. I hope these tips help. But remember that very often the things that we fear are the things that we need to go for. They scare us because they're big steps. And naturally, these big steps are out of our comfort zone. But there's no growth in our comfort zone. So if you are not willing to jump and go for the things that you're scared of, very often you're going to stay stuck in the areas that you're scared to take these steps. Using these 5 tips, it's really helpful, especially knowing that no matter what the outcome, you can have a plan. You will be okay. And going for these things that you're scared of, that's how you build self-confidence. Because if you're waiting to have a self-confidence and not be afraid to go for the things that you want, it's never going to happen. You need to do the things that you're afraid so you can build the self-confidence that, oh my gosh, I went for that thing. It was so scary, but it turned out great. Or I went for that thing. It was so scary and it flopped, but I'm okay. And in the long run, you know what? Sometimes when things don't work out, you turn around and you think, oh my gosh, I'm so glad this thing didn't work out because now I have this other thing. We don't know what we want by losing that thing. We don't know that. And we might never know, but we have to live with the faith that whatever happens, it always works out for our greater good. There's a greater power, no matter in what you believe, God, universe, whatever it is. There's a greater divine power that is guiding us. And everything that happens, it happens for a reason, including the things that didn't work out. But you just not going for the things that you want, it will keep you stuck, safe, and you're going to regret it. You're going to look back and regret it. And there was this interview with people that were dying. No one said, I regret going for that thing. Most people said, I regret not going for that thing. I regret playing small. Playing small will keep you stuck. True, you will feel less anxious. You will feel less scared. You are going to have that false sense of safety, but you're not going to grow. Like the Buddhism says, empty tranquility. If you're alone, let's say, and you're afraid to go for a relationship because you're afraid of intimacy and conflict and criticism or whatever it is, or commitment, which are all things that come with a relationship, and you quietly want someone in your life, but you're so scared to go for it just because of the what ifs, well, this will keep you stuck. This will keep you alone. And this is this empty tranquility. You're going to have a job, a hobbies, friends. But in the end of the day, you come home and you're alone. And it's not like you have to have someone in your life, but if that's what you want, but you're scared of the commitment and the conflict and all this new thing that comes with relationships, or signing up for that dating website or whatever it is, you have that false sense of safety. You want something, but you're not going for it because you feel safe and you have this tranquility when you're alone. Or if you want to go for this job that you know you're going to be great at, but you're so scared, and you try to convince yourself that I'm happy in my job. You know what? I make enough. There are perks. It's safe. I don't need to go for that thing. But quietly, you do want to go for that thing. I have hobbies. I have friends. I don't feel lonely. But quietly, you want, and you see people that are couples, married or not married, in a relationships, and you want that. You want to be able to go home with someone or wake up to someone each day, but you try to convince yourself you're okay alone. Well, with everything in life that it's outside of our comfort zone, it's a leap of faith. And you reaching that comfort zone, I bet years ago, that was your uncomfort zone, but you reached it, or life pushed you out of your comfort zone and you went to this uncomfort zone, but now years later, it is your comfort zone. So the same way, when you go for that new thing, you are going to be scared because it's unknown. But years afterwards, that would be your comfort zone. Lastly, I'll just share one thing that really, really helped me. I used to have a lot of anxieties, and I would interview people for a living, and then I'll get this anxiety during interview. And what anxiety is, it's fear. What helped me was I was imagining the anxiety, the fear as like a bird on my shoulder. And I would just talk mentally to her and say, you know what? Thank you for being here and keeping me safe. Thank you. You served me so well so many times, but now I got this. Let me interview this person and then you can come again. But let me just for a second talk to this person or whatever it is you tell. And I found that talking to your fear, it just diminishes its power. It's really strange and interesting, but giving it form, seeing it, and talking to it, it just has this kind of a power. Remember again, to feel scared, it's okay. The goal is not to let that fear stop you from becoming the best version of yourself and living your best life. Because guess what? We have one shot in this life. No dress rehearsals, no rehearsals at all. This is it. We have one life. And now I'm 51 and I have such a different perspective in life. I look back and I'm like, whoa, I went for every single thing. And let me tell you, 90% of the times things flopped. But they made me who I am. And that's why I'm very confident in my abilities to survive. I don't care if I lose my job tomorrow. I know I'll be fine. And I'm not afraid of rejection. I have a thick skin. So going for the things that I want, it's not something that I'm scared of, but there are still things that they're out of my comfort zone. And I'm still using these tips for those things that I still want to go for it. So I'd love to hear in the comments, what is one fear that you have? I'm sure a lot of other people have that fear. So sharing in the comments is really helpful for other people to just see that they're not alone. And I'll see you next time. And just remember, the unknown might be scary, but also is where the good stuff happens. You got this. I'll see you next time. Ciao.